I'm going to teach you all about my oxygen supply. And when I started with oxygen, I was on very little oxygen, only for movement, and I had a little Philips handbag thing that worked with your pulse, and it wasn't very long that I was on that because my oxygen needs went up quite quickly to now where I need 2 compressors that hook together to allow me to move, because the compressors, as you can see here, they go up to a number 9 on the scale there. So they go up to number 9 there. But I need 12 to 15, so what we do is we hook 2 up together. I'm trying to video this with a V connector. So you can see this V connector, and it hooks up the 2 machines together there. And then we have this one big lead here, which allows me to travel all the way through the house. I also have a humidifier. So this is this bottle of sterile water. And the reason that we have that is because anything above a 4, like it's very, very strong that blows through this. Anything above a 4 is very drying on your nose, it's constantly going up, and you get a lot of problems. And for instance, I have up here like a hole in my nose now. It's all scabby. It's a gorgeous thing to talk about, isn't it? My nose constantly bleeds, and your nose and your mouth is the first, it's the beginning of your respiratory system. So you can imagine if that's getting all scabby and bleeding, when you breathe in anything anyway, it's having to filter out dust and dirt and things like that. So that can cause infection going into my lungs, so it's important that I keep that really clean. So I will, at one point we'll go through to the kitchen and I'll show you what I do for that. I use these nasal rinses to help flush out and clean my nasal passages every morning and every night, and without doing that I'd be in a worse state. It actually helps me to breathe better in the morning when you wake up and you're all mucousy, and I wish I'd knew about that even before I got this condition, because I've always been quite sinusy and had problems with allergies and things like that too. So I'm going to turn my machines up here because I'm going to move, so I'm going to put them to 14 because I'm really struggling, and it's like it's a catch-22 because it's really strong now up my nose, and you probably see I'll be sniffing more because it makes your nose water, but I need this to help me move. And at the moment today is not a good day for walking and talking at the same time, so I'm going to try my best to show you everything. I'm going to show you, we've got some new high flow cannulas here. Now they're different types of cannulas. These are high flow ones, so these allow the higher flow of oxygen. The other ones are, I'll take you over here, I've got a basket full of things. Oh, see, because I'm bed now. I'll get my breath back in a minute. We have these ones that are low flow. I don't really use them now, but they don't take them back. And these are just thinner than these ones. And then we have a mask as well. And the masks are good. And sometimes when my nose gets really sore, I take this out and I try and go on this for a few days, and then just put this in when I'm eating and drinking to give my nose some time to heal. But over the years now I've been on this full time, my nose has sort of got used to it, and I tend to use my healing balm cream that I created less and less. But the nasal rinses are just the best thing to do. So I'm going to change my cannula, and one of the things that is a top tip here is getting it to fit correctly. Now these wires as well, you see it's all lying on the floor here. The wires too, when you get them, once you get a kink in them and the oxygen flows through it, very hard to get that kink out. So whenever you get a new like length of wire, cannula or whatever you call them, connectors, make sure all the kinks are out completely before you start blasting through the oxygen, because it's very difficult to get the kinks out once they're in there, and you just have to phone up and get new cannulas and new wires, and they go all the time, and you have to check them because there can be minute little holes in them, and it's happened to me a good few times where I'm thinking, God, why am I out of breath here? But it's because there's been a split in my wire, and they've had to come out with them. So what I tend to do is, so I've got quite a narrow nose there, and you can see that these are quite wide. It's probably wider than that at the moment. It is a little bit wider. So what I tend to do is I will squeeze it in. I'm trying to film this as squeeze it in together, these bits together, so that it moulds it better. And then when I go to switch it over, I'll push it in and hold it, and I'll also mould it round my ears and hold it and make sure that goes right, because if you get a little twist there, then it just doesn't work. So it's something that I've learned, because I thought these are just too big for my nose, what's happening? And at night time when you're sleeping, you're waking up and they're falling out. So mould them to the right size for your nose. So that's what I have to do with mine. I have to squeeze mine together. You might need to pull it apart if you've got a wider nose as well. So that's a top tip there. So always remember to mould your wire, and especially when you get the big long connector as well, make sure it's fully unravelled with no kinks in it before you start switching it on, and keep it as unravelled as you can for the first week, and that really helps. I remember getting a wire once and I totally buggered up the first time because it was all kinky and it was never ever right, and I thought, no, I just need to order a new one. It's a nightmare. So let's get the end of this. Let's see if I can put that there. That's all right. Okay. So I've got the end of my cannula here. I'm just going to put the new one in. Get the end of it. So I'm just squeezing it in there, and then put it around my ears. This is also can be tight here, this bit, so you just pull it up and down a few times to get it loosened. And that feels pretty good. It's sort of crossed over. Mould it around my ears. That feels fine. I love the smell of a new cannula. It's well, not plasticky, it's a very sterile smell. Anyway, and then with this one just goes in the bucket. So that's changing my cannula over. Also with these compressors here, well, Danny the other day, they have filters at the side there which build up with dust, and they just come out like that, and they just, all the dust gets washed off them. It's not something I can do because the dust would just, I couldn't breathe in the dust and do that. The spores would go right to my lungs. And then he just washes them in hot soapy water and then dries them out with a piece of kitchen tissue or a clean tea towel, and then just put them back in. It usually dries them enough to put back in, so they get done once a week. The humidifier, again, top tips for humidifiers. It can get hairline cracks here. So I had to phone for one not that long ago, had a hairline crack here, so just watch for that and inspect it all the time. Make sure that this is always connected down, it's in right. This tubing can become loose the more you pull it off and pull it on, and I tell you, you can just snip a little bit as it sort of, it just expands over time. You can snip it, but once it gets shorter, just order another bit of tubing. Is there anything else about the compressors? They're on wheels, and I can sort of wheel it about a little bit. It's not that heavy on the flooring, but one of the things that does happen quite a lot, I've got to be careful here, you can see the wire down the back here, and that's where it goes into the backing machine. Now that comes out pretty easily, believe it or not, and it's a nightmare to get in. Not just for me, actually, my carers and things like that and friends have been like, where does it go in? I'm like, you just got to feel for it, and it's just an adapter plug, right, comes out at the bottom, but if you wheel it, it can just come out, and then the alarm goes off on the machine. They're very loud, the machine alarms, you know, they'll be like beep beep really loud so you know something's happening. Usually when they go off, my son will come running down the stairs. But I think that's all about the compressors. So I have two here. You can hear how noisy they are now. Can you imagine having to sleep in the room with that? So what I do at night time is I run this wire, this big long wire cable, up the stairs, hook up to one machine, and then I have two of these in the bedroom. So if I need the toilet at night, because when I'm resting, the oxygen supply that I'm on is about 4.5 litres per minute, so one machine is fine. But the minute I start to move, I need at least 10-12 litres per minute. So when I get up for the toilet in the middle of the night, I hook up to my two machines in the bedroom. Now, luckily Danny sleeps through anything, that man. I mean, I've been taking a choking fit and everything, he's not even waking. He sleeps through anything. So when I switch the machines on, they just have a really loud beep, but it doesn't awaken him. I don't know how. Anyway, I hook up to the two machines if I need to go to the toilet. Then I've got a way of navigating in the dark with my big long wire and things. I've got it down to a T, navigating, and then I'll hook up to this one again that I'll have hooked onto the drawers. So although there'll be oxygen coming out of it, it's just one of the things that you've just got to do, because I couldn't sleep with this machine going off all the time in the same room. I sleep with earplugs anyway, but we certainly couldn't sleep. So that's how we solved that problem, and we're lucky to have 4 compressors in the house. Now, where will we go now? We'll go to the front of the door and I'll show you. I'm getting all caught up here now. This is the kind of things that happen. Everything falls on the floor. I've got a grabber. I'll just need to get that grabber later on and get all this picked up. I'm making a mess here. This is the kind of things that happen when I get left on my own. I just get into trouble. Oh, here we go. Oh, for goodness. Here we go. Trying to tidy up. It's not easy. I was trying to tidy up here. Unravel all this. I'm talking, oh Dylan, I'm making a video, you're not bothered to be in it. Oh. So can't do it. I'm knackered. That's me trying to pick up the cannula and the oxygen mask that got trapped in this wire. I'll get Dylan to do it. Dylan, you could unravel that, couldn't you? And that's me drop the grabber now too. Oh, I'm absolutely knackered. So, what have we got next? I've got a new one of these delivered because my other one was broken. This is it's heavy for me to lift. It's the little high flow stroller, and that gets filled with liquid oxygen for me going outside. I've got another one in here. It's on a backpack to go on your back, but it's too heavy for me to carry. So I've got a wee trolley I bought so I can wheel it out on the trolley. Oh, my nose is nipping because this is so high. See, it's a catch-22. If you want to move, you've got to stick it on high. Anyway, right, I'm not bending. I've got everything over this floor. You should see the mess I'm absolutely making. Oh. Anyway, oxygen, here we go. Down at the front we've got another wee backpack, and that's for these little top-ups to go in, and these big backup cylinders are for anything that happens to the compressors. If there was an electrical fault, I would hook onto them. But I also use them as well for in the car or when my liquid oxygen runs out. So this is, I'll call this my big TARDIS. And then in here, this is where, on this part here, the bottom of that bag fits on there. So you'll see that bottom there of that bag goes on there, and you just push it down like you were filling up a lighter, and it'll just fill up the oxygen, and it fills it full of liquid oxygen, which then needs about half an hour to 40 minutes to rebalance. A bit like a fridge freezer, you know, when you told your freezer needs to rest to let the gases settle. It's the same as that, because it's going to convert into a gas, so the liquid needs to settle first. So it then is a very clever piece of engineering, because it'll go through all these little coils here in canister and convert and come out, and your cannula goes on the top there. And